Hello students, this is Dr. Rice for General Logic, Philosophy 100 on truth tables. So we've had some troubles. Two-thirds of the class had a lot of trouble with the recent homework assignment on truth tables, so I'm going to walk you through one here in the hopes that visual prompts will help some of you put all this together in truth tables. So we're going to take an example that we have not seen before that looks like this. Okay, if R then L or L. Now this is a complex statement, but the first thing you need to know for truth tables is how many independent variables you have. If you have 2 independent variables, then you're going to need 4 lines. If you have 1 independent variable, you only need 2 lines. And if you have 3 independent variables, you'll need 8 lines. And if you have 4 independent variables, you'll need 16 lines in your truth table. So as you look at this, you can see that although it's complicated, we only have 2 variables, R and L. So you will need 4 lines in your truth table. So once we know how many lines, we can start filling in the variables for the truth table. And this is just a basic setup here. So we haven't even really started working the truth table yet. But if you look here, I filled in the columns for R and for L. Now, some of you had some trouble. You can start with half-truths and half-falses in that first column, which I have done here. True, true, false, false. Or you could have started alternating, true, false, true, false. Whichever you choose will dictate what the next column looks like. So if you start with half true and half false, as I have here, then your second operator is half of that. In this case, it ends up being alternating, true, false, true, false. So what we're trying to do is get the table to represent all possible values for the variables that we have. So you'll notice here then that I filled in alternating true, false here for L. Now, anytime L reappears, you just simply put in the exact same column that you put in before. Okay? So you have set up the table now, and as I note, this is inside a parentheses, so your final operator table will be this wedge column. Alright, so let's start to work this then together, and I've labeled the columns and the rows. So you can see over here the rows are labeled 1, 2, 3, 4, and the columns across the top are A, B, C, D, E. You don't have to do that in your homework, but it will help me make some references here. So now you need to figure this conditional. This represents an if then, if R then L. And in order to do that, hopefully you've already printed out your handy-dandy truth table quick reference guide. There we want to find the conditional and use that to help us solve this truth table. So if R then L, when we look up our conditional truth table, we find that it's only false when you have a true P and a false Q, or a true conditional, a true antecedent, and a false consequent. So if we have a true and a true, that is a true. So we will look on our chart and we find out that true and true is true, true and false is false, false and true is false, and false is true. Now there's logical explanations for all those, but if you don't understand them, you can just go right to that quick reference guide and find the values. So we see that when you have a true antecedent and a false conditional, then the whole thing is false. Otherwise, it's true all the way through. Does that make sense, hopefully? And then the last thing you need to do is use column B, which you just solved for, and column E to find the value of D, right? And so that was your final operator column. So go back to your quick reference guide. When you have a true and a true on a either or, it's true. So we can fill that in. A true and a true is true. A false and a false is false on either or. A true and a true is true. And a true and a false is true. So I like to circle, or if you're working on the computer, you can do it in bold, the final operator column. So since we're having so much trouble, I'm going to ask you, when you turn these in for the second time, to fill out all of the columns, not just the final operator column. What that does is it tells me where you're getting off track much more easily when I can follow that. I may post another one of these, but hopefully this will help some of you. And of course, you should contact me to get some more individualized instruction. Hang in there. It's tough, but when it comes, it'll come all at once.